स्टडी IQ IAS, आपका सिलेक्शन हमारा मिशन।
Hi everyone, this is Dr. Anamta Rizvi, your UPSC English Literature educator. Today I have brought a very important topic, and that is Victorian morality to modern rebellion. Now Victorian era, that is the 19th century, was a period जहाँ पे बहुत rapid changes हुए, जैसे industrialization, urbanization. So Europe entirely was gripped under a complete revolution during that period. With these revolutions, there was also strict moral codes that were entrenched within the fabric of the society. So जैसे there were strict rules for women, there were easier rules for men. ये जो patriarchal structure था, ये कहीं ना कहीं it affected the entire world. Don't forget also that 19th century was also the period जब इंडिया में भी इसका colonization बहुत rapidly हुआ था, especially post 1857 rebellion. So keeping that in mind, we would be studying today's Victorian morality plus how this Victorian morality, when it navigated into the 20th century, that is the modern period, how it transformed into a modern rebellion. So today, with the help of texts which are there, very much there in your course, we would be talking about Victorian morality, what it is. We will be also talking about modern disillusionment, rebellion, and then we'll be going ahead with all the texts that are there in UPSC English Literature option subject. So all my students are planning to go ahead with this subject. Make sure you do not miss this video because you will be getting very valid points to write in your answers. Moving ahead. What is Victorian morality? So Victorian morality refers to the period, to the moral values. Sorry guys, just a second. It refers to the moral values, the morality of that period and social beliefs that were dominant in the 19th century, and that is during the time when Queen Victoria was ruling, that is 1837 to 1901. ये जो time period है, ये Victorian era कहा जाता है. Officially बोला जाता है 1837 to 1901. इसमें moral values और social beliefs, societal hierarchies बहुत ही ज़्यादा entrenched थी. So in simple word, what does it mean? Strong belief, right and wrong. जैसे virtue को लेके, a woman's chastity, purity, अगर वो किसी के साथ betrothed है, उसकी शादी नहीं हुई और फिर उसने किसी और से शादी कर ली, तो she was considered to be a very wrong woman. या अगर उसको किसी ने उसके बारे में rumor उठा दिया and वो एक fallen woman की category में आ जाएगी. So it was a very very strong belief in what is right and what is wrong. Respectability and good reputation mattered a lot. So it was all about reputation. क्या आपकी reputation अच्छी, आपका prestige अच्छा है तो अच्छी बात है, otherwise you are not considered anything. You are considered from a low class or from a very small category. Strict sexual rules, especially for women. As I said, women के लिए the patriarchal ideas were extremely severe. So very strict rules about gender roles, about sex roles, sexual rules and all. Now marriage and family were sacred. So marriage was considered the most important element for a woman. A woman cannot even have the property of the father. So many ideas where women were not allowed to do this, they were not allowed to do that, they were not allowed to be financially independent, and so on. They were never taken seriously. And it was marriage and family, they were the most important thing in the Victorian times. Religion was central to life, and of course religion जो Christianity था, उसके जो beliefs थे, it became the most important, the primary major important thing in their lives. Duty, hard work and self-control were praised. Society believed in progress, empire and moral superiority. So they also had a very strong sense of superiority, this white race, especially when it comes to English people. उनका colonization बढ़ रहा था, उनके resources उनके सारे उनके country में आते, they were getting richer. They had this superiority concern that we are the best race and we are there to educate all the other races. So this was something that this English people of the Victorian era very much believed within themselves. Now this was Victorian era. Now if we move to the 20th century was a very tumultuous age. As I mentioned in my previous class as well, because of the two world wars, 1914 to 1919 First World War, and then of course the Second World War, 1939 to 1945. These two world wars shook the entire world. फिर इसी टाइम पे आता है मॉडर्न डिसइल्यूजन, स्पेशली post the First World War. First World War happened very early in 20th century. It was just the second decade it happened. So modern disillusion refers to the loss of faith and confidence. Okay, जो के बाद में काफ़ी हिल गया था, that came in the early 20th century, especially after industrialization and First World War. In simple words, people stopped believing that society was morally perfect. तो अब सोसाइटी को क्वेश्चन होने लगा था कि जो सोसाइटी में हम लोग रह रहे हैं, जो रोल्स डिजाइंड है, क्या वो सही भी है या वो गलत है. Especially Virginia Woolf, James Joyce, William Faulkner, all these people, these Nobel Prize winners started questioning the society, what it is. Religion no longer gave clear answers. Religion पे सबका इतना ज़्यादा strong belief नहीं रहा था. Everybody started questioning that whether God is there, whether this religion is right. So there was a very strong wave of disbelief, or you can say challenging or questioning the religion. War shattered belief in progress. Progress जो कि इतनी economic progress, हर तरीके के जो progress बढ़ रही थी countries में, वो stall हो गई, वो रुक गई. And this was it highly affected the beliefs of all the people. Individuals felt lonely, they felt confused, they felt that why are they, what is the purpose of their life in this world? Moral rules seemed hypocritical or empty. Hypocrisy, जो Victorian era में इतनी ज़्यादा भरी हुई थी, this sort of people stopped asking questions about this hypocrisy in the 20th century. And identity became personal rather than social. और आप कौन है, आपकी identity क्या है, this all became very important in 20th century rather than आपका 19th century. So with this note, we'll be talking about our Victorian morality and modern disillusionment. Let us look at some of the points. Social respectability versus exposure of hypocrisy. Now this is, of course, as we have discussed, social hypocrisy, respectability was very much a moot point in your Victorian era. So society, for instance, in Mill of the Flaws by George Eliot, enforced a rigid code of respectability. चाहे मैगी टुलिवर, टॉम टुलिवर कैसे भी कंडीशन में रहे, बट उनके लिए फैमिली की रिस्पेक्ट सबसे ज़्यादा ऊंची थी. दिस इज इन योर कोर्स. टेस by Thomas Hardy, Tess of the D'Urbervilles, uska character is so misjudged by all the boys, all the male characters in the novel, and ultimately she dies. So Tess is judged according to sexual purity norms. Marriage and domestic virtue are treated as moral anchors. So jo unki purity, unki virginity, unki chastity was the moot element in the Victorian era, and this affected all the women of that period. So this is Victorian morality. Now when we come to 20th century. So 20th century का जो सबसे important आपके कोर्स में टेक्स्ट है वो है इब्सन का A Doll House. A Doll House exposes domestic morality as performance. Nora's rebellion dismantles respectability. Doll House is a text इब्सन का जो कि 20th century का बोला जाता है कि फर्स्ट मॉडर्न टेक्स्ट. यहाँ पे हेनरिक इब्सन ने बहुत क्वेश्चन किया था कि जो नोरा का लाइफ है, उसका जो एक रोल है एज अ मदर, एज अ वाइफ, that was so suffocating. Ultimately she leaves and that was something जो कि बहुत लोगों ने resist किया, protest किया कि ये कैसी ending है, ये तो ख़राब कर देगा हमारी society को. But Henrik Ibsen wanted to show that जितना कैद करेंगे ultimately the society will rebel. So this was a very important aspect. Sons and Lovers by D.H. Lawrence reveals emotional suffocation. Again, Mrs. Dalloway also shows how suffocating it is for a woman to pretend always that she is a good wife, she's a good mother, and having no free will on her own life, no free chances on her own life, no choices that she could make. So these are the ideas that are there. Next you have is duty and sacrifice versus individual self-assertion. Duty, Victorian morality में अगर हम देखें, duty to family and society dominates Austen and Eliot. So duty over family is everything. Especially George Eliot का अगर हम देखें आपके Mill on the Floss में, it is everything. Over love, over companionship, over relationship. So duty and respectability of the family was the moot point. So जो prestige, respect the family की, that cannot be like bargained. It cannot be jeopardized at all. Moral worth is measured through sacrifice and endurance. Even Tess summons tragically to fate and judgment. और Tess भी tragically, उसका भी क्या होता है, Tess of the D'Urbervilles में भी Tess also dies and she also succumbs to the fate. Why? Because of the idea of respectability, prestige, honor. Because of these flimsy ideas जो कि that were kept much higher in position as compared to human being, their own life, their own happiness and all. Modern disillusionment, 20th century में अगर हम देखें तो again, Stephen Dedalus refuses duty to religion. Stephen Dedalus by James Joyce. James Joyce का जो work था, Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, Stephen Dedalus vehemently says no to all his duties. ना मैं family की duty करूँगा, ना मैं religion की duty करूँगा, ना मैं authority की duty, वो सबको reject करता है. You can see the direct contrast that there is from Victorian morality to modern age. Nora leaves her children. She leaves her children. She refuses duty. Modern protagonists value authenticity over social approval. So they did not care about what society is asking. They said, I want to seek my own identity, what I want in life. Then you have religious consolation versus spiritual crisis. Tennyson searches for comfort in Christian faith. Moral order is imagined as divinely structured. So Victorian morality was a lot about having complete, unquestioning, unchallenging belief in God. Though this shattered in 1859, जब Charles Darwin का Origin of Species आया, where he questioned the creation of the world, that was an element जहाँ पे the entire idea of religion was shaken, quite shaken. इसके reverberations हमें strongly कहाँ feel होते हैं? Modern era में, जब modern disillusion में, जैसे Conrad's का universe lacks divine intervention, Joyce का Catholic framework collapses under intellectual revolt, and world is spiritually silent. So you can see, because existential crisis, हम क्यों आए हैं दुनिया में? Is there even a God? What is our purpose? ये सारे questioning बहुत होने लगी थी in the first part of the 20th century, especially after the First World War. Then you have linear moral growth versus psychological fragmentation. Victorian morality. Novels follow moral development, closure, as in Paradise Lost. Ethical lessons are visible. So moral lessons, ethical lessons, जहाँ पे didacticism ज़्यादा था, कि आपको बताया जाए कि ऐसा करना चाहिए, वैसा करना चाहिए, तो मोरालिटी ज़्यादा सिखा रहे थे वहाँ के ऑथर्स, as compared to modern disillusionment, जहाँ पे they did not care what lesson you are taking. This is the life that characters are leading, and there's no lesson that they want to impart. So Mrs. Dalloway abandons linear structure. जो एक स्ट्रक्चर भी था नॉवल का, वो तक क्वेश्चन किया जा रहा था. इट वॉज क्वाइट जैसे कि किसी के थॉट्स का भी आ रहे, कोई कैरेक्टर का भी बोल रहा है कि चैप्टर्स के अकॉर्डिंग उनके कैरेक्टर्स के थॉट्स डिवाइडेड थे. सो लीनियर स्ट्रक्चर जो नॉवल का विक्टोरियन एरा में इतने अच्छे से फॉलो किया जाता, दैट वॉज वेरी मच क्वेश्चन. Portrait traces interior struggle rather than social resolution, and moral clarity dissolves into ambiguity. So जो morality थी, that is questionable. After the end of every novel, especially Joyce पढ़ ले या Virginia Woolf पढ़ ले, you will find a lot of ambiguity. ये जो ending हुई, आपका interpretation बहुत हो सकता है, कोई कुछ समझ सकता है, कोई कुछ समझ सकता है. So ambiguity was deliberate, consciously done by the authors. Then you have confidence in progress versus trauma and alienation. So Victorian morality was all about confidence in progress. Despite industrial critique in hard times, progress remains a framework. Empire and civilization sustain cultural confidence. As I mentioned, 19th century was a very, you can say, a very prime time for colonization, British colonization. They were growing everywhere. The resources were getting richer. They were getting all the money. And this was a time period where they realized that they're very powerful culturally, economically, financially, in every which way. They thought they're the superior race. And this very much reflects in so many novels of Victorian era. But when it comes to modern disillusionment, 20th century, so many things happened. First World War, Second World War. England का अपने ऊपर से भरोसा बहुत shaken हो गया था. Especially there were freedom struggles that were happening across the globe, especially in India. So post-war trauma haunts Mrs. Dalloway. Colonial idealism collapses in Lord Jim. ये जो colonial idealism था कि white race is the supreme race, that collapsed in Lord Jim by Joseph Conrad. And industrial and emotional suffocation dominate sons and lovers. So these are the ideas जो कि बहुत ही entrenched थे, जैसे कि जो लगता था कि अभी भी इसकी foundation shake होगी ही नहीं. All those crumbled in the 20th century. This is the reason it is said, never say never. Aaj kya ho, what you're believing today, tomorrow that belief might completely collapse. Right. So guys, these were the ideas that I want to talk about, that there was a difference between modern age Victorian morality. So for all my students, if you want to go ahead and join my classes, you all are very much welcome. And there's a limited टाइम पीरियड पे ये ऑफर चल रहा है. 12,999 का ये कोर्स है. यू कैन यूज माई कोड AR Live, बी अ पार्ट of this course and make sure that you all are there and learn as much as you can. Today's class was just a snippet of the intense discussions that we have in the class. Every day 1 p.m. I take my class, and जितना भी course है आपका paper 1, paper 2, section A, section B जो दोनों papers में है, everything is discussed in great detail. My endeavor for all my students is for them to develop an analytical thinking, a critical judgment, ताकि whatever answers you get, you are able to give a nuanced answer. Not that कि आपको एक जैसे ऐसे questions तो नहीं आते ना UPSC में कि what is a plot summary, इसका character sketch दो. No, they ask you questions which make you think, make you wonder whether you are able to answer with lucidity or clarity or not. And that is what हम लोग class में discuss करते हैं. So guys, I really hope that you be a part of my classes. Come and join us, be a part of Study IQ family, and see yourself, the changes that you see in learning, in your knowledge, and of course, become a UPSC civil servant. Hope to see you.